welcome to One Foot in the Grave podcast.
Good job.
That was good.
Hey, bro. Oh, by the way, I'm Dan.
I'm Jake. Those were Dan's kids.
Hello, people.
If only they knew that there's, like, no one that listens to this.
And that there's no money for them when you die.
Yeah.
I didn't
I will
save
leave
for
them
college.
a very outdated microphone. And I guess my work computer.
Oh, man, what a time I have had. What a
Yeah,
time.
well, yeah, you've had a pretty full-on
eventful.
couple weeks. Yeah.
Started with a little cancer scare there for myself.
Which turns out not to be cancer. You haven't told me yet.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm not 100%.
I was.
You were
fairly
sure it
confident
wasn't
when you told me
at the beginning. Well, I'll lay it out this way. So this was a... okay, you think of the worst cancers to have. Pancreatic's pretty bad. Brain. Esophagus and stomach.
Oh, yeah.
This was a million times worse than any of those for any of you who have survived those. This was cancer of the dick.
The dick. The dick.
So what happened is my eyesight has gotten quite poor over the last couple of years, and I need glasses now, and they're quite strong, which is pretty bad because I don't always wear them when I'm driving. But anyway, so I had been in the shower about, like, I don't know, a month before at Christmas time.
Rarely
I
do
was
you
having a
shower with glasses on.
I don't shower with glasses on, right? And I remember kind of looking down and going, geez, my dick's red.
My dick.
There's something wrong with my dick. But, you know, your thought is never going to be, I got dick cancer. Your thought is like, I must have hurt my dick somehow.
Yeah.
So I just put it out of my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it'll
Yeah,
be fine.
New undies. You know,
I'm not using it. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I got these New Balance underwear. They've got a seam right down the middle. And I've been working out at the gym in the hospital and not showering after and that kind of thing. So I was like,
Lord. Oh, well,
like,
I mean,
it's
there's
just
bigger
probably they've
problems.
been marinating in nut fog and swamp ass. And I probably,
Goodness.
it'll be fine. It's going to go away on its own.
I mean, you
So,
deserved it then, I guess, is what the moral of the story is.
So fast forward a month, and Christmas was stressful. There was some other cancer stuff happening in the family. Cousin Sally died. It was a
On
difficult
Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day. It was a difficult.
In hindsight, I must say, Sally would have been great to have on this podcast.
I know. She had some great stories. She was a what kind of archaeologist? Forensic archaeologist or anthropologist. So she was like the real deal CSI. And there was no Gilgrism, there was no romance, but there was a lot of bugs and bones and bullet holes. She was pretty cool. Anyway, so like Christmas, I wasn't thinking about any dick stuff. I was thinking about Christmas stuff. And that shit. And then we about a week later, I got out of the shower again, and I looked down, and I was like, whoa, what's happening here? I had my glasses in the bathroom is what happened, so I put them on before I got dressed. I was like, man, my dick's real red. Like a dog dick. And
Oh, no.
and I never saw anything like that before. And it wasn't like, I've seen lots of patients with dick stuff, so I was like, well, I know what a yeast infection looks like. I know what I know what a dick injury, like a bruise, looks like. And I don't use my dick for anything. I mean, I pee with it. And that's it. So I was like, fuck. It's not like we've been having like rough intercourse. This is a dick that hasn't been touched in well over 2 months. So,
Oh, my Lord.
so I said, I got to do something about this dick. So the thing I did was I turned it to Google, and I was like,
I turned it inside out, is what I thought you were going to say.
let's see if I can
vagina.
find anything that looks like this, because I figured it was contact dermatitis was what I was looking up.
Ugh.
Because I thought, well, we've changed. We are using Gain laundry detergent, something like that. That must be. But it didn't hurt. Couldn't feel anything. And so I looked it up, and the first thing that came up was carcinoma in situ, and it looked exactly like that. like Bowen's disease. And I was like,
Well,
oh,
I know,
yeah.
but the skin
remember
can only
Bowen's
do
disease.
like a couple of things. It can get red and it can get bubbly.
Yeah, it didn't
it
get
can
bubbly. It just got red. So I was like, oh, God damn it. I looked up the treatment, and it's penectomy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, son of a bitch. But there is, in some countries, they'll let you do a trial of topical 5FU, like the chemo
The stuff
Dad
that makes
was
you
on.
shit. Yeah.
I was like, I'll just burn holes in my dick with that. That's fine. I don't care. So I
like
called.
a sprinkler system when you pee.
It's like, on the odd chance this is like a fungal infection or something. I went to the drugstore and got the, how proud you are when you go to the drugstore to get Vagisil for your dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went and picked some up, some Canestin, and some pills, some fluconazole
Canestin.
or whatever
For skin.
for skin. I was like, I tried to walk like I had athlete's foot so nobody would know. tried to look like I was itching my toes.
Oh, no.
Oh, they're so itchy. I can't wait to get home and apply this to my feet.
It's my feet that are the problem.
That's less embarrassing. So I took those. Nothing really changed, and then I became like absolutely convinced that this is cancer. So I called for my family doctor, and he was like, "That we can give you an appointment in 3 weeks." I was like, "Oh my God, 3 weeks from now, I'm not sure I can handle that." And I happened to have a call, and this is funny because we were just talking about how I was fighting with a urologist on the last podcast.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, and he's the only one my age, but I was like, I'm not calling him. Fuck that guy. He'll go.
Hate him.
He won't take care of my ween. So I called this older urologist.
Yeah, I don't need to look at it. We need to cut it off.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if
Consider
somebody's
it
going to
gone.
cut it off, I want it to be a friend who cuts it off. So I called this older guy who's a brother of another doctor I worked with. And I actually had another patient that I was dealing with him. And we finished dealing with the other patient stuff. And then I said, just before I let you go, I think I have penile carcinoma and I can't get in to see my doctor.
Do you want to look at my dick? Do you want to look
So he didn't. No,
wanna look at my
he didn't
dick?
look at it. He's like, I'm not real good with this stuff, but I do have a really strong steroid cream that I can prescribe, and if it doesn't go away in 2 weeks, then come in. And he's like, most of the time, just so you don't panic, we don't have to take the whole thing. We just take the tip. I was like, the tip is my favorite part. You can't have the tip. I need the tip.
It's from all of those leopard jokes.
The tip is the part that is the most useful part. The rest of it is just the stump. It's like the muffin top. Nobody wants the muffin stump. So he gave me this prescription for this like really potent steroid. And after like 2 days, it went away. I was like, fuck. I don't think cancer would. Now, steroids treat cancer too. But it was just topical. So I got a creamy looking dick. I don't care.
Oh,
I'm not using it. Nobody else is seeing it. Even I can't see it. I don't have my glasses on when I put the stuff on. But I was like,
and you don't have someone to lift the panis.
yeah, it's under my belly button. I just got to feel around now. No, it seems to have pretty much cleared up. So that's the end of my dick cancer story. But it was quite an adventure. And going into work every day and pretending I wasn't worried that I was going to have to get my dick cut off was maybe one of the most challenging.
Yeah.
As a person who wears it all on his sleeve all the time, that was a challenging task.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much an oversharer. I would be like, look, Mr. Smith, you have a brain tumor, but it could be worse. You could be me.
You could be me.
And have it on your dick.
They told me, Mr. Smith, that they're only going to take the tip. How do you feel about this?
You, however, will die.
Mr.
But
Smith
me-
would be like, I can't feel my face, but the tip is the best part. Nobody wants dick cancer. I mean,
No.
women get cervical cancer and stuff, but that's all hidden away. That's all like tucked up inside. Dick is,
Well, I mean,
it's either there or
well-
it's not there.
I mean, I'm sure that they're equally as devastated if they thought that they had to lose their cervix or something.
Well, cervical cancer, they still have a vagina, right? They just, there is vaginal cancer. I've seen, it's all horrible. Life is horrible, and it's unfair. But I got lucky on this one. I think I've skated. I think I've skirted death this time. Still don't know what the fuck it was, but
probably herpes.
No, it didn't hurt. It was painless. It was bizarre.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It may have been, I don't know, contact dermatitis, I suppose, is probably the most likely thing. Anyway, in the middle of all that, so we've had a massive outbreak of COVID, of course, in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
I got some vaccine stress happening because everyone's fighting. The federal government's blaming the provincial government. The provincial government's blaming the federal government. But all I know is that they've vaccinated Alan Legier and Robert Picton and fucking
in prison?
Paul Bernardo. Yeah,
in prison?
all the famous murderers. And yet, and they've vaccinated Miramichi and Moncton and Campbellton and Campobello Island. But we're in the middle of this outbreak, and they're sending us all their patients, and they have not vaccinated anyone in St. John. And there's no plan. So we've been fighting with them. I was like, look, we need a vaccine. Not just us, but our nursing homes need a vaccine right now. There are outbreaks in the nursing homes. Well, we're waiting on the provincial government planning committee to decide who gets preference. Fuck you. Just give it right now. If you have it, give it.
You have to wonder whether the people making those phone calls have been vaccinated. I feel like
there's no pressure, and they don't give a fuck. They care about us less than they care about the prisoners who committed multiple rape murders.
I just feel like that is... I mean, maybe not. Maybe they haven't been. But I feel like anyone who is not emotional about it when they're talking to you and not like showing some form of empathy has already been vaccinated.
Well, look at you probably don't watch Canadian news because it wouldn't be on TikTok. But after Christmas, so they get up there every fucking day and they wag their fingers at us and tell us not to travel and not to see your family. Like, I'm sorry, your relative is dying in a city across 1 hour away, but you're not allowed to see them.
Yeah,
every fucking one of them got on a plane and went to the Dominican Republic or the Jamaica or wherever, Hawaii.
Yeah, I did see that.
And then they've
all come back.
They're all hypocrites. They're the worst kind of hypocrites.
Some of them,
they're like, oh, please don't travel. It's the most important thing. The reason they're saying that is because they don't want you to potentially travel and increase the number of travelers and make them sick or make their hotel cost more in the Caribbean or Hawaii. They don't give a shit about you.
Well, I think some of them are actually traveling to see dying family members, but...
Don't care. They didn't let other people do it.
I know. That's what I was going to say, but it's still not okay.
We could have gone
said, though, if I had the power to go see Mum if she was dying and I was one of the few that were able to do that, I shouldn't do it, but I could do it, I would probably still do it.
Hey, that's 100% different because you would not be the person making the rule that you're not allowed to see dying people. Look, I understand why you need social distancing. I'm a fucking doctor. I get it. But if you're not going to make exception, like they don't make the exception to the rule for people who are visiting dying relatives, but they're flying plane loads of people in from fucking China every day.
I know. Yeah.
There is a massive disconnect here between them pretending to care about you and how much they care about you. Because they pretend 100% and they care 0%.
And you know what? I think it is some of these people who are coming in, like I don't think these are travelers. I think these are people with Canadian, in your case, and Australian, in my case.
I got to change my chair because I'm rattling for a second.
And they can't.
I'm in the squeaky chair.
They're not allowed to turn away citizens of that country. But I think the way that they are handling it is pretty poor.
It's terrible. It's atrocious.
And they're only just now saying that they have to test negative before they get on the plane to come home. And I'm like, well, should not have been like...
You
shouldn't have been like a plan.
This should have been in place. Yeah, from day one.
Like, it seems like it's pretty, commonsensical to test them before they get on the plane rather than just
they didn't put that rule in place because being tested would have inconvenienced them on their Christmas holidays when they all flew away to the Caribbean.
Exactly.
They're so fucking corrupt. They're such assholes.
And then you look at that and then you see what's happening in the States and you're like, Okay.
We're catching up. Canada's catching up now. We had Ontario had 4,000.
No. I mean, like the riots and storming the Capitol buildings.
Buffalo guy, Millennial Davy Crockett, was interesting.
Did you see that The Simpsons? I think. Oh my God! Wait a second. Did I dream this? So there was a guy and he had like fox skin on his head and shit.
He had the buffalo horns. Yeah. And like a coonskin cap.
So I don't know if this is real or whether I dreamed it, but it was like, oh my gosh, The Simpsons are able to predict everything. And they had the groundskeeper Willie.
Yeah.
And he was dressed completely in that exact same outfit. So I was like, oh, I wonder if he saw that and then copied it, or whether it is just coincidence. And now I'm not sure whether I dreamed that or not.
I think that guy dressed like that because he knew he would be on camera,
photographed,
and he's an attention whore, and he's Buffalo guy. Everybody's going to remember him, and now he's going to be an internet meme.
Yeah.
When he charged up to the front of the of Congress and on the dais or whatever it's called, it's like, is he president now? is this like the takeover?
Oh.
But it was pretty. I mean, look, I understand people are upset. Everybody's upset. Left's upset. Right's upset. Everybody's freaking out. Rioting's wrong. But it was a pretty poor effort. I don't know what the fuck that was all about.
Well,
but they
also,
I think they were surprised that they'd gotten into the Capitol, and then they were like, well, let's take some selfies and leave.
The police officers were ushering them in. There was one guy in the stairwell that I saw that was like, hey, no, stand back. And then he was like, okay, come up to the next flight.
Well, I'll give it to the police on this one. Very few people get killed compared to how horrendous that could have been. It would have been a bloodbath, right?
Yeah, I think there's some controversy about that as well. Because these people were all like white, and on the side of President Trump, and not a thing was done. Like, very few people got injured, and now
but how many got injured in Black Lives Matter riots?
A lot, a lot of people, and there was no
not by the
rubber
not
bullets
by the
or anything like that. No tear gas. Like you
there was
saw,
tear
like,
gas
in the. No, I don't
in
think
the
there
rotunda
was.
and stuff. Yeah, oh yes, yeah. It was. I watched the videos.
Well, they're saying.
I mean,
that
they did
it
shoot
was
that
like
one
a double.
woman.
I know,
but I don't think they should have shot people. Because it ended. No, exactly. It ended without killing people. I'm a pacifist.
Yeah, and that's what I was
think you should
like.
kill
People
anybody.
are like, there's a stark difference between these two. It's like a double standard. And I was thinking,
fuck you. You're not supposed to shoot anybody.
I know. I was like, maybe it's that they've learned that they don't need to use like brute force in order to get people. So I think there's two sides to that coin.
Yeah. Well, and I honestly don't remember during the Antifa Black Lives Matter riots the police shooting people. I remember people getting killed, like the Kyle guy shot people.
Well, no, they used a lot of rubber bullets. A lot of people got injured.
Yeah.
I don't know if people.
Neither is
I don't
good.
know.
I'm not siding with any of them. Everybody's fucked, and everybody's mad.
Well, I think
and nobody
if you're
believes
protesting
what
and
they
rioting, protesting is one thing, but I think if you're rioting, then
exactly.
You get what you deserve.
I'm not saying Black Lives Matter is wrong. I'm not saying that it's wrong to protest if you know.
No, I don't think that you should go around breaking shit.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't storm your Capitol building. I mean, look, if they had elected like Hitler as president and he was rounding up the Jews, then storm your Capitol building. That's okay. Yeah, go for it. That's an okay reason to riot. But this was just like two sides disagreeing about whether there was election fraud. And then they all stormed the Capitol, and then they took a bunch of pictures with their buffalo horns on. I know. And then I think they just left.
Like stealing the podium. He's like, I got a podium. Bye.
The pictures are crazy.
Yeah. And it's there's no fear. Like you when you do look at the other riots that happened earlier in 2020, you're like, these people know to cover their face if they're doing stuff that's illegal. And
but these people are all getting arrested now, so they've got 63 of them now.
I know, it's because
one guy was wearing a name tag.
I know, and then they're talking to the news, and it's like, "Hi, I'm Julie Smith from Kentucky, and I live at 123.
Yeah, I'm here from Wichita,
and I just stormed the Capitol. Go me!
I stole Nancy Pelosi's mail out of her office." And I was watching that guy, so the guy who had the feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yes.
And then it showed him later outside the Capitol, and he's holding up the mail, and it's the same guy for sure, but his shirt's gone. It's like, what happened to his shirt?
It's like, I took it off for the photos. I was going to wrap it around my face, but then I wanted to clout. So I decided just to, show off my man bod.
Anyway, they've done a great job for the police because they've made it very easy to arrest them.
Especially all of them like putting it up on social media and stuff like that, like on their own page.
We're looking for a tall man with a large dick tattooed on his belly, and he's wearing buffalo horns. It only describes one guy.
On the tip. Fan of One Foot in the Grave podcast.
Yes, we're making fun of them. Probably half of them are listeners.
Decided to get Jake's dick tattooed on his chest.
Those are our 40 odd listeners we're pissing off right now. That's our base.
Oh my goodness.
The QAnon.
Well, currently we are in lockdown in Brisbane.
Yeah, welcome to the fun party.
Well,
show.
I mean, we're only locked down for 3 days. It seems a little bit comical that they're like, "Hey, look,
3 days.
We've got this new strain. It's very contagious. So stay at home for 3 days."
3 days. Stay at home for 3 days. It's it incubates for 14 days. Stay at home for
but 3
for the
days
first
should
three.
do. 3 days should be fine.
We don't want to give anyone Stockholm syndrome.
I wonder. I wonder if I feel like they're probably going to extend it, but I mean, we've had very little community transmission up until now, so I'm wondering if they're just kind of waiting and seeing how bad this particular outbreak is going to be, and then they'll decide whether they extend it or not. I feel like they're probably going to extend it. I definitely panic bought some toilet paper.
Well, now it's not as bad, right? Because it's not a worldwide lockdown. Like the rotating lockdowns, it's not as bad as the beginning. When they locked down everything, except for flights from China to everywhere, so they could spread the disease that they created in a lab in China.
I believe.
Sorry, I was thinking something.
I know, but I really do allegedly believe that this was man-made in China.
Listen,
or somewhere. Or
it was 100%.
The Americans could have made it, and it was released accidentally.
No, it was made in China. It was, but look, kudos to China because nothing they've made until now has lasted this long.
Especially with everyday use. But like, I mean, my son's
foosball table broke 3 days.
Oh,
how'd they make a virus that's lasted a year? No, I don't. I mean, I don't know that, but I certainly speculate that there is a Wuhan virology lab, and they have interviewed people like the Daily Mail and the New York Post and stuff. People write off those papers, but when you're interviewing the lady from the lab who's called the Batwoman, and she says we made the virus, it could sway your opinion a little bit.
Yeah,
there's no truth anymore. I don't know what to believe.
I mean. Coronaviruses are notoriously difficult to control, which would make it a perfect vector but I just feel like I guess this has mutated in a year within the human population, but I just feel like it's too targeted for humans.
It's too perfect an instrument to destroy the economy. It's almost like they said we want something. Either, some nutjob environmentalist said we want to kill off enough people that, will decrease our carbon footprint. Or somebody said we want to make it kill enough people and make you sick enough that people are afraid of it, so they lock down their... And we have to have the incubation period be at least like 14 to 21 days. Make it as long as you can and make it as insipid in the beginning as possible. And then you can start it here and fly it out.
Yeah,
no, they probably started it by mistake, but
I mean, coronaviruses, regardless of the species that they're in, they do cause clinical signs, and I have not heard a thing about. I'm a veterinarian, I haven't heard anything about bats being symptomatic for this. So, I mean, you would think that if it was rampant, if it was truly a bat virus.
Well, now they're saying, look, and all my medical colleagues would fucking swear at me. They'd be like, this is bullshit. You got to, party line is that it's from a wet market. Fuck you. I don't care anymore. You're all full of shit.
I mean, well, maybe that's where it started, but who knows?
Well, it could be. It certainly could be. But look, the odds of a bat coming in, they're saying now, oh, well, maybe it's not from bats. Maybe it's from bats and pangolins. Look, unless your pangolins are eating bats or they're fucking not going to share viral DNA. This is something that's spliced together, like, probably, in my opinion.
Yeah. Allegedly.
I'm not saying 100%. Now, listen, China's going to censor us, and we're never going to have any more Chinese listeners. Sorry.
No, I don't know if we had any. I don't think that they get podcasts there.
Sorry,
anyway.
over there, Shanghai Shek. Arbat.
I don't know if they get podcasts there because everything's so...
And Trudeau, look,
anyway.
The other thing is anything you say that's critical of the Chinese Communist Party, instantly they cry racism. Oh, it's because you're racist against Chinese. No. I'm not racist against Chinese. I am opposed to your government. I hate dictatorships. I hate that they did this.
I don't understand.
And I
don't understand.
Whether this was, first of all, whether it was made in a lab or whether it really did happen naturally, they did cover it up until it spread across the world. And they lobbied world leaders to make sure it spread across the world because they didn't want to be at an economic disadvantage for a couple months. So fuck them. Your government sucks.
I mean, why try to cover it up if you didn't have a part in it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even they might have wanted. They just wanted to make sure that every other economy got hammered too.
Well, maybe, but I don't think
world leaders don't see things the way we do. Like we see it as, oh God, how many lives are going to be lost? They see it as, oh God, how much more power will America have than China if we're the only country that suffers this? They're a bunch of assholes. Let me tell you about my other near-death experience that happened. I almost took my whole family with me this time. So back in the good old days of a week ago, when I could travel across the province freely, whistling to myself as free as a bird, I went up to our camp in the Miramichi.
You did have dick cancer at the time, so
I did have dick cancer, and I was at the time quite convinced that it was cancer.
So swapping one problem for another.
But I wanted to distract myself. I was in a terrible mood, but I was like, let's do something that's kind of fun. We'll take a load of stuff up to the camp.
Usually so bright and shiny.
I bought a new mattress for Jack, but his bed hadn't come in yet. All this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I drove. We drove a load of stuff up to the camp, and set up, and we had a nice evening. We went into Miramichi and had a bite to eat, and came back. And it started snowing, and it was really slippery. Like the camp's at the bottom of a hill right in front of the river, right? And and it was pretty slippery coming down. And I was like, shit. And I have this button on my truck that I had never used before called hill descent control. And I was like, now's the time to use it. So I hit it, and it kind of straightened out the truck, and then it made it easy to come down. Said, okay, well, we're good. And parked overnight. But it was freezing rain and snow overnight. And it had been warm during the day, and all the snow up on the hill that we live on had melted and was sluicing down the driveway. So when we got up in the morning, it's like, oh, let's go for a walk. And I slipped and I fell on the walk and hurt myself quite badly. Like it was like a banana peel cartoon fall where you land on your back. And I winded myself, and then Chrissy fell, and then Jack fell. I was like, fuck, it's really slippery. I was starting to worry about getting the truck out. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. We got out last night. So kind of walked down to the neighbor's place, and it's downhill, but not quite as steeply downhill as ours. And I slipped at the top of their driveway. There's like 4 inches of snow on top of the ice. You don't even think you can slip on that. I slipped, and I started sliding, and the river was still open. It just had ice flows going through it. And I slid down, and I was out of control. I was going faster and faster. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go in the water. So I had this pocket knife in my pocket, and I didn't have time to open it. But I took the knife out, and I started whacking at the ground with the knife. And I got it under the ice finally as I was coming over the crest. I would have launched into the water. And it slowed me down enough that I could kind of steer myself into some plants and grab onto those. So it was a pretty close call. So I hobbled back. I was really sore. I'd fallen. I'd say I slid, it sounds like it took a long time, but it was only maybe 20 feet in total.
Yeah.
But was pretty scary. It's like one of those things that happen in slow motion because I was sure I was going in the water, and the water's really high and really fast right now. So we came back. We had picked up Chrissy bought a chair for our house because there was a big furniture sale, and she wanted to take it back home. So like the whole point was to drive furniture up to the Miramichi, and she's buying furniture in the Miramichi to drive back to St. John, but whatever. So I had this big chair in the back of the truck, and I couldn't see behind me because it was taking up the whole bed of the truck, and it was in a box. And everybody got in the truck, and I said, I'm going to need 4-wheel drive to get out of here. And I started driving up the hill, and I got up about 2/3 of the way up the hill, and then, your car, like it has this thing, so when the tires, I think it's called traction control, so when the tires are spinning, it tries to redirect to other tires. Yeah. Well, all 4 of them were spinning so much, they just stopped. Like, they stopped spinning. And we started going backwards. And I was thinking about my fall towards the river. And now I'm in this fucking massively overloaded, huge truck on a steeper hill with a shorter distance to the river. And we started going faster. And I was going to tell them to jump out. And I was like, the door is going to crush them if they jump out. Because we're going so fast, they can't get away from the door. So I figured we'd hit the water, and I'd tell Jack, wait until the truck fills up, and we're all going to freeze, but we'll get out, and we'll...
It's probably not that deep.
No, right now it's probably 10 feet deep. It's really high right now, because in the winter, right, it's got all the ice jams and stuff. So I had the whole Mythbusters plan in my head about how to get them out of the car.
Yeah, and I know. I knew that you were thinking about Mythbusters.
And just as we were cresting down, I realized, I'm actually gonna hit the camp first. That's good. That'll slow us down, and then maybe I can go into the river. It'll spin us, and I'll go in frontwards. And I thought, man, what about that button? And we'd been sliding probably 5 or 6 seconds. Like, it was a long slide. And I hit the hill descent control button, and almost immediately you heard all 4 brakes start going brrr, like going one to the other, and we straightened out and we stopped like no problem. Even though I had the wheels locked and everything else when I was trying to do it, I was like, oh my god. It was so stressful. And Jack,
did you try
Jack
again?
looked like he wanted to cry, but he didn't. And so I said, okay, well maybe if I off-road it, because the driveway is icy, but the side of the road is a ditch.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I said, what I'll do is I'll get a little ways up the driveway and then go into the ditch. Because I got the big truck, I'll just ride up in the ditch. Now I started doing that, and again, got about halfway up, and then slid backwards in the ditch, but I hit the button, but I hit a tree with my truck.
Oh.
So it scratched up my truck. I was like, fuck, I don't know how to get out of here.
Most expensive chair ever.
I know. So I called a fireman who was he's the guy who did our home inspection. And I said, hey, Jason, you don't happen to have any spare tire chains I could borrow, like to put on my truck? Because we're really stuck. He said, no, I don't, but I do have a plow, so I can try and break up some of the ice on the driveway. I was like, that would be terrific. Because the other thing I'd done was gone out with an axe and tried to axe away the ice off the driveway, but it was way too big. I mean, it's a huge driveway. It's like 1 kilometer long. So he came with this plow, and I thought for a second the plow was going to get out of control. It was so slippery, but he plowed up this big sheet of ice, and then it was kind of just mud and ice, and we were able to get out. Anyway, it was that was my successful camp journey. And,
oh my gosh!
And I thought the whole time I had dick cancer, and just a real relaxing weekend last weekend. All things said. And done.
Oh well, such fun. I've done nothing. There's 0 that I've done. I did change the throttle tube on Elijah's motorcycle this morning, cool. But apart from that, I have literally done nothing.
How's the adopted butcher bird?
Baby bird. Very good. He's my pal. He's completely useless on his own. So if we ever do go away, he's likely to die. But he'll have had good innings.
Fortunately, you're not going anywhere.
Yes, the good news is we're in lockdown.
Jack had a funny... he was out playing in the snow just the other day, and he found a bug, a live bug. It was black with a red head. And he decided it was his pet bug, and he brought it home. And we put it in a jar, and it escaped. And Chrissy found it a day later in the living room, and put it back in the jar, and then it died.
Oh.
But I don't think bugs last real long. Like,
Made in China.
Made in China.
Yeah, that's unlucky. Well, it could have also been that it was not meant to be alive in the dead of winter as well.
I know, but isn't it weird that there was one alive, like, in the snow?
Sorry, that woman you can hear in the background is my son. Screaming. Yeah, well, you know what I have been doing? I'm such a dork, but I found this guy online, and it's called Ride Like a Pro. And he trains the police officers in the States how to ride their police motorcycles. So I was like, oh, this will be a good one. And the first lesson is push steering, which is like counter steering or whatever. And I was watching that, and then I was like, I'm going to go apply this new skill. And I went up into the mountains, and I was doing all these twisties going up and down and round. And I was leaning and doing all this stuff. But I don't think that the tarmac or the pavement in Australia is the same as in the States.
Right.
Because as soon as I started to do relatively tight turns, the back wheel completely lost traction.
Oh.
I thought I was going to die. So, like, it just not completely slews out from under me, but I can feel it just jolt, like you're gonna die, and then your anus tightens,
Puckers,
and you go wah, and then you straighten up, and you're like, oh, well, I won't be doing that on this anymore. So that's as close as I've come to doing anything exciting. Really, I've just been working from home. Everyone's canceling.
Have you been watching any new YouTube stuff?
No, I don't watch
Mr. Ballin.
Apart from fails. Oh, I do watch Mr. Ballin. Is he the one that you have to keep your hand on the boat?
No,
the
that's
last
Mr.
person
Beast.
To take their... Yeah, Mr. Ballin. Yeah, Mr. Ballin's the spooky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark, mysterious, and spooky.
Yeah, I have watched
format.
that. That's where my fear of shadow people comes from.
He did a
Mr.
really
Ballin.
good one the other day about Haley Jennifer Zega. Did you see that one? The girl who got lost in Ozark National Forest?
No.
Oh my gosh. It was really cool. So it was back. Oh, this is like our story time. This is one.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. The children giggling in the background is to add effect.
Yeah,
Actually,
it works. It works for this one. So in 2001, this little girl was out on a hike with her grandparents in the Ozark National Forest, and they hiked past a waterfall. And she wanted to go investigate the waterfall, but the grandparents are in their 70s, right? And they're like, we got to get back. It looked like it was going to be slippery and kind of dangerous to get down to the waterfall. So they said no, and she kind of had a temper tantrum. And they said, okay, well, let's just keep walking and she'll follow us. So they walked a little ways and then turned, and she was kind of following them at a distance. And then they walked a little ways and turned, and she was there again. And then they walked a little further and turned, and she wasn't there. So they went back to get her, but she wasn't anywhere to be seen. They were calling for her. They went to the waterfall. They looked all around the woods. And after about, an hour of looking for her and not being able to find her, they ran down to the end of the trailhead and called the police, and it started this massive search. It was a search of I think it was, they searched 30 square miles looking for this girl. Because the area they were in was kind of this tight trail, and there was a big bluff at the top of a hill that you could walk up to, but it was a really technical climb. And then at the bottom was the waterfall, and there was kind of a cave system down there. And then and there was nothing else. Nowhere else to go other than just empty forest. So they did this big search, and they looked for 3 days, and they'd almost kind of given up. And then somebody found her down in front of the cave by the stream, and she was just sitting there with her feet in the water, and she was fine. Like she wasn't. They said she was slightly dehydrated or whatever. So they took her back, and they took her back to the hospital to get rehydrated and reunited with her parents, and everyone was kind of joyous, and they got over all this stuff. And then they said, eventually they got around to saying, well, what happened? Like, how did you go missing? what the fuck? Basically, what
how
you would
old
say
was
to
she
your
again?
Kids. She was little. She was, I think, 6.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, so she told the story that she had walked off the trail and then had just kept walking straight. Like almost like she didn't know to stop. And she never heard them calling for her or anything. And she just kept walking and walking and walking. And the first night, as the sun was going down, she met another little girl named Alyssa, who had long brown hair, and she described her in a lot of detail. And they said, "Who's this Alyssa girl?" And they said, "Oh, well, she's my imaginary friend." Okay. And they said, and she said, "Alyssa showed me that if I walked up this trail, that I could sleep on top of the bluff, on top of the mountain,
Yeah.
And so she walked all the way up, even though there were planes and helicopters and everything. Nobody saw her. And the first night she slept on top of the bluff. She walked until she was too tired to keep walking and fell asleep. And then when she woke up, Alyssa told her to walk down this really technical trail, and she led her down through the woods and without a trail through the woods down to the stream where the caves were. And by then it was dark, and she told her to sleep in the caves, and she slept there that night. And then she doesn't really remember anything else other than the guy finding her the next day when she was sitting there. She doesn't kind of remember any details about what happened other than she was, singing songs with this Alyssa girl. And they asked her, what songs were you singing? And she said, oh, she showed me these songs. And she started singing this, this song that the girl had made up or whatever, her imaginary friend. And people just kind of wrote it off as this weird, quirky kid. But and then it turned out that 20 years earlier, a 6-year-old girl named Alana with long brown hair had gone missing and was presumed dead. And when she described her, she described like the clothes that Alana was wearing when she went missing, and and the songs that Alana used to sing. So it was a really spooky kind of, this imaginary friend was sort of, a lot of people would say, potentially the ghost of this other missing girl who had died in the woods. Anyway, pretty, there you go. Pretty spooky story for you.
That is.
Don't believe a word of it, but, the girl did go missing and was found, but the rest of it is probably complete bullshit. But there you go.
Yeah. We used to do Mount Katahdin on the Appalachian Trail every year. And I could see, if you wandered off that trail, and, sometimes there was, 5 minutes between me and mom and dad, or sometimes maybe half an hour between us, depending on who stopped for a break and stuff like that. If you were walking for half an hour and they just didn't catch up with you, there would be no way that anyone would find you.
Well, I don't know if you remember the book that Mom read to us. We read it to Jack. Sorry, I have terrible reflex. It was called Lost on a Mountain in Maine.
Oh.
Do you remember? So this one was about a Boy Scout or a Cub Scout or whatever the, young Boy Scout in Maine was. A beaver. He was with his troop, and they climbed Mount Katahdin, but when they got to the top, when they got to the summit, it fogged in, and it was raining. It was like raining hail and ice. And he had gone way ahead of the other kids and his scout leaders because he wanted to get up to the top, and he figured they'd have to turn around. And if you remember, the top is there's a couple splashes of paint on the rocks to kind of show you where.
It's really just big boulders. Yeah.
And so he got to the peak and nobody came, so he turned around and came down. But he came down instead of following the ridge back on the way down to the slide. He walked down almost straight down from the summit of Baxter Peak through the boulders, through the boulder field, and entered the woods at the bottom and never found anybody else and couldn't hear them because there's fog and howling
found his
wind
way
and
to the
everything.
trees. Like, if
Instead
you don't
of falling to
follow
his death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually you'll hit the trees. Either way.
Yeah, you may not know it, but you
Anyway,
will
this
eventually.
kid, it's a great book. It's a kid's book, but it's really excellent. He talks about how, like, you can feel it, like you're there, like that feeling of being lost and not knowing where your parents are and not seeing any adults. And he did everything wrong. Instead of just waiting in one place, but he was cold, I guess. He decided to go down into the trees to get, some shelter from the rain and stuff. And and he went into the forest in a completely different location than where you're supposed to come in and out of the forest to get up to the peak. And so nobody found him. And he was in the woods, and he kept walking. He never stopped and took notes or anything. And he took off some of his clothes because they were wet. And he lost them, like he lost his shoes and stuff. He kept going. I think it was for 11 days. He was lost in the woods and drinking water out of puddles. And I think he knew a little bit of like fieldcraft, so he knew which berries he could eat and
He's
stuff.
Cub Scout. Yeah.
But he ended up finding his way out to a farm road in Maine. And that's where he was rescued. I can't even imagine what his parents would have been going through. But yeah, it's crazy. To me, Mount Katahdin, if you got lost there is a bit of a landmark, the top of the mountain. So just go there.
Oh, I know, but like if you were trying to go like the trails that we took were freaking
Treacherous.
challenging.
Yeah, I had a hard time. I thought about going again recently. I'm too out of shape, I think, now. It was really hard.
Yeah, well, it's more just the landslide possibilities on the other parts. Like, it wouldn't. I don't think it'd be a good time anymore.
I don't like I don't like technical climbing once you're above a certain height. So if you need rungs and you're like standing against a sheer cliff face, I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, it's a no go for me, and mainly because I have my own kids, and I'm like, I know that Elijah would be like, "Hey, I don't need the rungs. I can look. I can run this."
Yeah,
and then I'd be like, "Oh, Elijah's gone."
It'd be noble if I said it was about Jack, but it's just this fear that I have. Chrissy and I went to what's Acadia National Park is in outside Bar Harbor. And they have a trail there.
And
I forget what the mountain's called, but it has those rungs. And I got halfway up, and it was like the truck sliding back. I got halfway up with a huge lineup of people behind me, and I had to make them all turn around because I couldn't keep going. I was like, "I'm sorry, I have to come down. I'm sorry." And they were all like, "We can't turn around." I was like, "You're gonna have to, or you're gonna die because I'm coming down."
This gives me nightmares still. We were at a rainforest retreat a couple of years ago, and it was this forest top walk, and it was this like a suspension bridge over the canopy of this rainforest, and it was amazing, and we took Alice. Alice was just so tiny, and she must have been like 4 or 5. And there was this place where you could go up and go to like another level on this really high tree. But you had to climb up a ladder to get there. And the ladder was not straight up. It kind of spanned over this abyss, like this nothing, to get there. And like someone my size, no problem. If I slip through, the rest of my body will stop me from falling through between the rungs of the ladder. And I started to go up, and Aaron was going to wait down the bottom with Alice, and I was just going to have a little peek. But then Alice started right up behind me, and the space between the rungs was her whole body. So she was clambering up this thing, and if she slipped, there was nothing underneath her. She would have just fallen to her death. So I was like, stop, turn around, please go down. Oh my God, it gives me chills. It was the fucking worst experience because I was above her, so I could not like grab onto her or anything. It was terrifying. Don't do that. Don't let your kids do that.
I know Jack is fearless about heights and steep surfaces and stuff. I can't. Ooh, I have a hard time. Even when it's close to the ground, I have a hard time.
It gives me the willies.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is season 4, so I'm going to call this 401.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good talking to you, brother.
Word. I'm glad that
we
you
could do this more often.
Your little chode is not going to.
I know it didn't have much length to spare. Jeez, I lost the tip. It was already unimpressive. It's no good when it's shorter than the pubes around it. It's no good.
I mean, and you shave, so that is short.
Uh-oh. Did I just lose you?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think my voice just cracked because I'm becoming a man. Changed.
Anyway, brother, we'll.
All right. Well,
let's try and let's really try and do one in a couple weeks so we don't wait too long.
Yeah, word. Well, I'll potentially be home for a very long time.
But we're not going to get to fly to Australia. I was just reading a thing on the COVID information for doctors, and it was like, will we be able to travel once we have the vaccine? And it said, absolutely not.
Fun times. Well, I guess I'm stuck here.
Yeah. What do you think you are, a politician? What do you think you are? One of the politicians making these rules?
Well, see, I guess I do have the advantage that I could repatriate to Canada, and then I could repatriate to Australia because I'm a citizen of both. But I think
Australia is better.
To me. Yeah.
I know Mom wants to get there. I would too if I'd been stuck with me and Jack for the last year and a half.
I think because the kids are growing up so fast.
Yeah.
Hey. Anyway, well, have a good time, everybody. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.
Thanks, weirdos. See you later.
Let's get this high-fi. Close it done.
We used to do this much more professionally. But we stopped paying for the media suite.